Welcome to the Photoshop portfolio lesson. Since you're going to be displaying all of your images on the Google site, go ahead and open the Google site that you created earlier for your website. I'm going to go ahead and right click and I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to title it Photoshop. I want you to pick up a PowerPoint presentation. It's called Photoshop Portfolio. Go ahead and paste it. Actually, I'm going to drag it into that Photoshop folder. And I'll go ahead and open that up and show you what that looks like. So you're going to actually come in and design this. If you look at each slide, it's set up for you to insert images, a before and an after image. And I want you to take note that these are shaped like squares because that will come in handy when we go into Photoshop. I'll go ahead and show you what the final product ended up looking like. Here's an example of depth perception that was done in Photoshop. Here's an example where I manipulated an animal. And if you notice on the right hand, there's water droplets. So these are some examples of before and after images that you can do during this project. So let's get started. This lesson is going to demonstrate how to isolate the background and turn it grayscale and keep the blue building blue. This is an image that I took, so I don't have to worry about copyright on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come with the crop tool and I'm going to click down and I'm going to hold the shift key and drag it out. Notice it's forcing a square. Keep holding that shift key as you drag it out. Now this could be a dilemma because I'm only getting the building. So I might want to actually get a different image. Alright, I found an image, so I'll try that method again with the crop tool. Now again, if that's not showing, you need to go to Window and click on Tools. So we're going to take the crop tool, I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to move it so that it's centered. And once it's centered, I'll go ahead and hit the Enter key. Now I'm going to do File, Save for Web, so I can add it to that PowerPoint. Now that's a pretty large image. Probably should have resized it. Let's go ahead and zoom in a bit to see what the quality is. Now the general rule of thumb is if it's a photograph, you save it as a JPEG. If you look at the top, in this case it's a GIF, I'll set it to JPEG and you'll be able to see that it's a much better quality. So I'm going to go ahead and save it as a JPEG. I'm going to get to that folder that is nested inside of the Google Site folder and I'll go ahead and call it Church 1. I'll make changes to this image and name it Church 2. So for this particular method, I'm going to take the Lasso tool and I'm going to come in and select the building as best I can. If you go inside the building like that, you're going to have to start over. There's also the magnetic lasso that's hidden. You can try that one. And what you do is you come in, you start clicking down, and it starts wrapping around the building. Hey, this is actually a pretty good tight fit here. It's much better than the lasso at this time. Sometimes the magnetic lasso isn't that good. So if I get up here to the cross, see how it went inside the building? So I'm going to click around and I can always get rid of that later. You might have to play around with this because what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy just the building. I'm going to isolate it. I'm going to turn the background into a grayscale image. Let me come around, I'm going to loop around, and once I connect to the beginning point, it makes a selection. So I'm going to go Control-C on the keyboard, or I can choose Edit Copy from the menu. Once I've copied it, I'm going to do File New. And I'll go ahead and say OK, and I'll paste that image. Edit, Paste, or Control-V. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to return to the original image, and I'm going to go ahead and select Deselect. I'm going to go to Image Mode and choose Grayscale, and I'll say Discard. Now if I were to take that image that I just isolated and drag it onto this image, you're not going to notice any differences. Alright, so I found the image that is still in color that I had copied earlier. If I were to take the Move tool in the Tools window and drag it, it's still grayscale. So I'm going to do Control-Z to undo. I just wanted to demonstrate that. You need to go back to that grayscale image, make sure it's selected, and go to Image Mode and set it back to RGB. Now when I drag it, it's going to be in color. So that's a nice little tip for you to know about. Now this looks so much more interesting with more colorful images, but this is one of my photos, so I did want to do the demonstration. So I'm going to actually go to the tools window, the layers window, and I'm going to go ahead and make that a little more opaque so that I make sure that it's lined up on top exactly where it should be. So I might use the mouse to move it around until it's lined up, and that looks pretty lined up, and I'll set it back to 100%. I might want to take the zoom tool, make sure in the options window that it's set to plus and not minus. If it's minus, you're going to make it smaller. So I'll click on the plus sign to make it bigger, and if I hold down the space bar of the keyboard and click down, I can move this image around, which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead, I don't know if you can see at the top where there's still color around the cross. I'll take the eraser tool, and if you right click, you can make the eraser tool huge, or you can make it small. If you ever needed softer edges, you can do so under the hardness, but I'm going to keep it relatively hard, and I'll come in and start erasing that blue. I'm going to zoom in some more, hold the space bar and move it, and back to the eraser tool, and I'm going to make it a little bigger. So you'll want to clean it up so that it looks professional. So you're going to want to experiment with that, clean it up and all that good stuff. So I think I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to View Actual Pixels. This actually is a very large image. So I can go to View Zoom Out, View Zoom Out. This is a really large image. When you do this project, you definitely want to be working with large images, because when you bring it into PowerPoint, if you stretch a small image, you will lose serious quality, and we don't want to lose quality here. So there is the final product. I will say File, Save for Web. We're going to save it as a JPEG, and we're going to save it into that folder that we created earlier. I'll call this one Church 2. So I have my before and my after photos. I'll then return to the PowerPoint, and I'll give it a title. Maybe I'll call it Grayscale. I know that's not really interesting. And I'm going to click on that first before box. I'm going to choose Format, and I'm going to use the Paint Bucket tool, and I'm going to choose Picture. I'm going to locate that folder, open up the Photoshop folder, and click on Church 1. Now I'll go to the after. Go to the Format option, Paint Bucket, Picture, and Church 2. And you can see now see the before and after images. So you want to continue doing this with other effects using Photoshop. Until next time, you have a wonderful day.